How are you doing today, sir?
So good. And why do you choose the name Collider?
It's a long story. It's from
We'll make it short because I think you want to speak to me.
sir, there is nothing I want to say. Yes.
Then explain Collider.
Sure. It's a movie. We cover movies and TV. It's where where cinephiles and fandom meet. I started the site in the summer of 2005. We have an awful lot of people that read and watch the site.
So I was wondering whether it had anything to do with the Huygens Collider, where they beam atoms and knock atoms out and look after it. So it is essentially the collision.
Yeah, it's like a melting place, a melting pot.
And the melting place is what to what?
Of where cinephiles and fandom meet.
Got it. Perfect.
I've spoken to you in the past, and I will say it every single time. It is always a effing pleasure to be able to ask you questions. I am a huge fan.
Thank you.
So I know this is for Star Trek 1 through 4 on 4K, but I have to ask you, are you working at all on Star Trek 5 4K at some point for the future?
No, they have not asked me.
Okay,
maybe they forgot to ask me about 4K.
Well, I hope they do ask you, because I would like to get anyway, that's a whole separate thing. Yeah. So one of the things about filmmaking, especially in the last few years, is that many films get added VFX, and sometimes they get tweaked a little bit now that technology has allowed us to, make changes. And I'm just curious, how do you feel about, say, the Star Trek films having newer added VFX added, or slight changes to fix maybe little bloopers that happened? Do you feel that this is a good thing, or do you sort of feel like...
I understand what you're saying, that in its rawness, it's part of its charm, I guess, is what you're saying. And to fix it makes it slicker, but that wasn't the original. That's an interesting point you make there, that in its mistakes, it shows its humanity. And, they didn't know that, or they may look at that. I see a coffee cup there or something like that in the haste to make it. Whereas they would jump in a big movie, they would jump back and reshoot it. They couldn't afford it. Well, just leave it there. Maybe they think it's an alien or something. That's a really good point. And if I could argue that it would be better to leave it in all its rawness and all its energetic fumbling, as against slicking it up and making it look pretty and nice, whereas it wasn't so pretty when it was made originally. I could argue that that's a really good idea to leave it alone.
Yeah, I think that if they are going to make tweaks to anything, they always should offer the original on the same disc, or you know what I mean? Like, always offer what was originally...
That's expensive. And print it twice, they wouldn't want to do that.
So Robert, jumping into the actual Star Trek movies, Robert Wise was a very interesting choice as a director for the first Star Trek film. And I'm just curious if you could sort of talk about when you found out he would be helming it, what was your initial reaction, and what was it like working with him?
Robert Wise had just come off West Side Story, I think it was. He was renowned. He was like the popular director. So as against his ability as a director, which I didn't know, he must have been great, because he had all these expensive movies that, to his credit, and I had seen West Side Story, and the camera work and the thing was brilliant. Although he was shooting essentially the show that was who directed West Side Story?
Oh, Robert Wise. Oh, you're talking about the play,
the musical.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Right, I do vaguely. A renowned Broadway director, so he essentially filmed the Broadway show. And so the camera work was his, I guess, or the camera work was a brilliant cameraman. And Robert said, yes, that looks good to me. So he was a good director. He was a really good director. Problem with that was he was essentially an editor. He was editing the film in his mind, and he never got to really edit it as his primary talent was an editor, I think. And And he never got a chance to exercise it because the movie had run into delays on strikes that happened during the filming. So we had to stop filming, and then we'd resume filming, and he ran out of time to edit. And so the movie was shown without the slickness of his editing, and it wasn't as polished as it could have been, and suffered as a result of that. Yes.
I spoke to you previously, and you said that you don't actually watch a lot of the Star Trek stuff, that you haven't seen. Right, exactly. I am curious though, if you were sent the 4K movies and if you happen to just turn them on to see how good they look.
I wouldn't look. I don't need to look at them. Well, no, I mean, you polish it, it looks, oh, that's brighter, and the ship looks better. That's cool. It's the story, and what do I look like, and how are the performances, and that was the meaningful thing to me. And I never liked what I looked like. And then I look back and I think, oh, I didn't look that bad. It's now I look bad, but I don't look, it's just me.
Sir, I mean this really sincerely and honestly. You look fantastic, considering that you're only 50.
Right. 55.
Exactly. So Star Trek 2, if I can jump into that for a second, most people consider this the greatest Star Trek movie. Your performance, people love. At what point making that film did you realize this might be really good?
I'll speak about me, not what actors. If I go into something that I think is terrible, and I have to think it's really good. Otherwise, oh God, I don't know whether that scene was any good or not, and the movie's not very good. This is a disaster. Why don't I get out of here? I was on a Broadway-bound play opening here in Los Angeles. So we'd rehearsed with a renowned director and a great playwright. It was his second play, but it was really his first. And I'm standing on the apron of a theater, big theater here in Los Angeles, with an actress, a renowned actress. And we're in darkness, and the lights are going to come up, the curtain's going to go up, the play is going to begin, opening on our way to Broadway. And she turns to me in the darkness and says, "Are we in a disaster?" And the curtain comes up. Now we got to perform. So that little thing has always tickled my mind everywhere I go. Am I in a disaster? And that's the worst thing you can think of. So I thrust that out of my mind, and everything I do is the best thing I've ever done.
Got it. Okay. So when you were making the film, you didn't realize this is really turning out like.
No, but I felt good about playing the scenes. Otherwise I wouldn't have done, I'd have to feel good. I'd have to feel genuine, earnest, honest, truthful. It sounds good to me in my theater trained mind. I think, I think the audience will laugh or cry or whatever it was I was trying to do. I would have to feel good about what I was doing. Otherwise, I think every actor must have to feel that. Otherwise, my God, it's like performing in front of people who are booing, "Get off the stage," which has happened, by the way.
Before I run out of time, I'm almost out of time. I just want to touch on Star Trek 4 real fast. It is this great, fun movie that is this great adventure and this amazing environmental message back in the 80s when this was not at the forefront of a lot of different things. I'm just curious if you could talk about what you remember with the making of that film and how important it was that it had this environmental message.
I had been into Wales long before that. I had done a performance of a great writer's poem, "Whales Weep Not." And I'd done it to whale sounds in front of 18,000 people. I'd been into whales and I'd talked about whales. So I'm not sure where the whale thing came from, but I've always wondered, there was a coincidence that this whale thing that I was into at that time didn't evoke the whale concept. I'm not sure. But having been into whales and the story of the whales and the sounds of whales and the demise of whales, I was so enthusiastic about the concept of the whale thing. And Leonard did a wonderful job directing it. The screenplay by
I know the name. Oh my God.
That's the way I feel.
Oh my God.
There, it's
Drew.
there.
Oh my
It's
God.
there. Oh my God.
I know the name, but I can't remember it right now.
Same here.
Or Bennett, maybe.
Who?
I thought the screenwriter.
No.
Bennett.
No,
the name.
He was the producer.
Okay. Well, let's say I can't remember.
Right. Me neither.
I'll fix it in post.
Please.
Right. Exactly. Well, one last thing though. Is there anything that you remember though about specifically making that film or just working with the cast? I guess if you could just reminisce a little bit, I would really appreciate it.
Well, I remember how at the end of the series, the end of the third year, how devastated we all were that the show was over. We all really loved the show. Many of the scripts, even people talk about the third season not being as good, you know, it was great. We had something like $150,000 a show. I mean, and that included our salaries. So now they spend $2, $3, $4, $5 million on an hour. So you can see the handicap that would have been there. But I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed doing the show right up to the very end. So I was very sad that, again, like every actor, the reason equity exists is because shows would close out in the boonies and the producer wouldn't have train fare for the cast to get back to New York City. So they started equity in order just to get train fare to get back. That was the original reason for the union. And so how to get back, and now it was canceled, it was all over. And then we wandered into the bright lights of no work. And I had to do, in particular, I was divorced and broke because I got a divorce at the same time. So it was a really turgid time for me, the cancellation. And then when the movies began and we got movies and my life picked up and I was now working a series and the movies, the continuity of life struck me. The fact that if you can just exist for a while longer, something good will, and I keep trying, something good will come about. That was the message as life continued with Star Trek and otherwise, that life continues.
Sort of like now with conventions and everything coming back.
Right.
I got to stop. I could ask you a million other things, sir. It is always a pleasure to be able to talk with you. I wish you nothing but the best.
Me too, for you.